Human animation. In the last video, I showed you how I've been working on a human animation pipeline, which is sourcing a lot of data from MetaHuman. It's using the Polyhammer character DNA add-on to maintain the MetaHuman in Blender, and then we're kind of doing anything with the data, breaking it down into new formats, stitching different chunks of animation together, correcting the pelvis, etc. And the results were looking good. I've been continuing with that pipeline, and I'm going to share the updates in this video. However, it's going to be a little bit of, complaining, because I'm not an animator, which is why it's really interesting coming in and having a look at the pipeline of tools that everyone's been using for all these years that I didn't know anything about. And now I'm coming in with the developer lens, basically judging every piece of software on the chain and realizing just how freaking terrible everything is. My God, animators, what have you been using all this time? You have not been eating well. All right, so just for a recap, this is where we were at with it. I had, like a scene here, lit nicely. We had proper full facial animation, although it's only using a certain subset of a facial animation because the face and the body can run independently. So we've got scrunching, we've got mouth, optionally we've got tongue that can be controlled with the tweak rigs, which are preserved from MetaHuman, eyes, etc. It's all lit, works fine, cool stuff. And then separately we had a body, which is in need of correction. It's from the machine learning markerless motion capture, and you'll notice that there's some fulcrum issues and there's collision issues as well, like when the arms come together. Actually, this animation isn't the whole stitched one. This is just chunk 1 and 2, but that's fine. And there's some slanting. So this is prior to any cleanup for the body. So it's almost there. This is kind of where we left it at the end of the last one. So the next stage for me was going to be, let's try Cascadeur, because I know that it's basically what a lot of people recommend for the cleanup process. You like a physics-based animation tool, a little bit of AI-driven stuff, even though, I think AI is overused as a description for like anything that's like a complex algorithm, to see whether I could pass this body data into Cascadeur, clean it up a bit, and then pass it back into Blender to reblend in. The problem is, I don't want to be too mean in case the developers watch this, there's a lot of kind of impressive stuff feature-wise in Cascadeur. But from my personal experience with it over the last 24 hours, of which a lot of tests have been done, and I've recorded this all in my human animation report because I have a board, a PureRef board, that is available to my patrons on the July 2026 production files project fold, where I'm basically outlining my whole process of working on the human animation pipeline. I have never touched a more crash-prone, freeze-prone piece of software that cannot handle more than a handful of data points. What I mean is, I'm importing the markerless motion capture stitched, which is about 3,000 something frames of animation, into Cascadeur. The whole thing chugs, like it slows to a halt. I think there's some caching process being done on the timeline, so you can kind of scrub things back, but the program will randomly freeze at points where it doesn't make sense to freeze. Like, for example, hovering over UI elements, freeze. Pressing down on a UI element without changing anything, freeze. And then all of a sudden, works fine. Smooth, and then freeze. It will be like intermittent and weird. The animation unbaking process, so this is a feature in Cascadeur that's specifically designed for turning intense mocap data down into more simplistic curves that are just interpolated between. It is so slow on this computer. And just for reference, on this computer, 64 gigabytes of RAM, AMD Ryzen 9 5950X, 16 core, and a RTX 3090 GPU. The unbaking process is so slow that it takes about, I think it was like 1.5 hours to do just phase 2 of the unbaking process for only 300 frames. I think that was one of the measurements I did, because the unbaking process is split into about 3 phases from what I can tell. There's a fulcrum thing, there's like the curve thing, and then an auto pose thing. But that length of time makes it unviable for any production whatsoever. And it's not like waiting for things to bake or unbake is necessarily an annoying thing, because there's a lot of other points in the process where I am having to wait for things, like for example the animation stitching and the pelvic correction. That requires a bit of time, but even that is like a fraction of the time compared to unbaking. It feels like I can render entire frames of like a short film in a faster amount of time than it would take to process one frame of the unbaking. So when you've got that much mocap data imported, I almost can't start any operations because the software will just crash. And if I do start operations, they'll take so long that I don't think I'll be able to fit them within a day, like if I was doing a production length, like a 3,000 frame motion capture. If you do get anything processed, like for example, if I process just a chunk of the animation, then for example, I would go to like click on a joint, move it, crash. So if you forgot to save, then you've got to wait, I don't know, however many hours to unbake it again, and then think, okay, do nothing absolutely nothing but save it immediately. Otherwise, you'll lose everything. So my experience with Cascadeur so far has been very frustrating. My main complaints are there is no feedback when it's doing a complicated process. You'd think for a piece of software that's supposed to be specializing in processing a lot of data, because animation is a lot of data to process, that they would have invested some effort into like a pop-up to tell you like, you know, at least a percentage, ideally more information. There is nothing. So feedback would be important. Secondly, for something that's apparently using like a neural net type system to do the unbaking process, there is no GPU acceleration at all. I find that particularly weird. And thirdly, in general, the speed is way too slow. If I wanted to feel comfortable using it for processing a ton of production files, it would need to do it in about 5 to 10% the amount of time that it currently is. So like a 90% reduction. This is now leading me onto two avenues of how to proceed with cleaning up the body. They may involve me making a whole bunch of more tools. So there's two ways to go about this. One is to try and make the process as easy for Cascadeur as possible by dropping frames myself from my mocap data. So basically writing my own animation unbaking script. If in Blender, which will run faster than Cascadeur's, it may get different results, but still I can optimize it, not only just for dropping like n number of frames in between other frames, but to look at the density and see how much of a change there is in like, say, quaternion angle data or position data, then having a threshold for the amount of difference. And if there's not much of a difference within the frames already dropped, then drop those ones as well. Export that to Cascadeur, basically baby spoon feeding it. Like, here's an extremely small number of frames for you, and then see if we can work with it, which again, I shouldn't have to do. You're thinking, for a piece of software that's charging people, I think I paid £300. You get perpetual if you pay annual with Cascadeur. Something that's supposed to be like, you know, highly regarded, top of the line for the business. Again, no GPU acceleration, cannot handle one mocap scene. I had about 30 crashes yesterday in Cascadeur. So simplify myself. Control rigs, because they don't currently have control rigs, my humans. Character DNA, so like Polyhammer, who make the character DNA add-on, they have a tool for generating control rigs for the metahumans. I haven't done any testing to see if that's compatible with my method of applying animations to the characters, because I've actually had to recode the character DNA add-on from Polyhammer slightly. They might be watching this because they watched the last video. They gave me access to their more expensive add-on, which is very generous of them. So when I say recode, it's nothing big, and I'm not sharing any modified version of their add-on anywhere. It's purely for personal experimentation. In the last video, I mentioned how one of the main problems of getting markerless mocap data from Unreal, exporting it through FBX, importing it into Blender, and reapplying it to the metahuman using my own import method, was that pelvic rotation would not be preserved. Part of the issue for that is that for some reason the pelvis is not considered, I believe the term was like a driver bone, by the metahuman DNA system. Character DNA adopts that philosophy. There's an evaluation pass that's done on the metahuman where it sets certain bones to quaternion rotation mode. Right? If you don't understand this, just stick with me. However, there are a few bones left out of that. There's spine, root, and pelvis. Root, I understand, but pelvis, you need pelvic rotation. And it seems, for me, when exporting the animation data from Unreal, pelvic has quaternion rotation. At least that's how it would seem. So I don't really know why it wouldn't be considered quaternion instead of Euler. I say Euler, by the way. I don't care if it's someone's name, but I say Euler just to stop people from writing comments. But, oh, it's Euler. Okay, well, when you die, I'll read your Eulogy for you then. No, I call it Euler because it's an EU. Yeah, Euler angles, Euler. So in the evaluation loop in the character DNA add-on, Polyhammer, I made a teeny tiny little change. In the file rig instance.py, there's body initialize and body rest pose. It's kind of been clipped out here. You just added a little section here, force quaternion, that lets you put in extra bones. And this is basically an override. This is bones that aren't evaluated into quaternions naturally. So I can put in extra bones here that force them to stick to quaternion mode. Because one thing that would happen is I would do my animation chunk importing into Blender, stitching, pelvic correction. It would work fine, look fine, save it, close Blender, reopen the file, and the pelvis would be broken again. And I'd be like, how did that happen? I just fixed it and saved it. Why is it broken after reopening the file? Because Character DNA add-on was evaluating the metahuman again, as it should have done. It was working, but for some reason, again, the pelvis was not considered a driver bone. So it was setting the pelvis back to Euler, meaning the data was not visible. like animation-wise. This could be fixed just by going back into the pelvis and setting it back to quaternion, in which case you would see the animation play properly again. So I just added this little section to the add-on just so I could override it. This is now a local version to me. I've also modified it so it's not an extension platform add-on, and it's just like a little local zip for me. So I will need to test their other add-on for generating control rigs around metahumans and see if my animation method is compatible with that, or I'll just make my own control rigs for it. I have ideas for designing my own unbaking and cleanup process in Blender as well. We could talk about that, but I don't know how I'm going to edit this video or how long it's going to be. I don't really want to bore you. So I'm just letting you know I'm carrying on with the human animation pipeline. I am now bumping into more issues and coming up with more solutions, and I see a few possibilities of how to proceed. So one is simplification for Cascadeur, and the other is more bespoke. On the bespoke track, there's completely self-made and experimenting with more polyhammer tools to see if I can adapt it for mine, which may probably require a few more rewrites for a custom version. Although there is one thing I do want to say. I imagine some people might think, oh, Curtis, you're getting in over your head when it comes to writing your own scripts for everything. The line of thinking, by the way, is precisely why things just don't get done. You can't just do things in life. You see that a lot with medical science. Like a lot of the times, there'll be an unsolved and untreatable problem, and then one day someone just boop, puts two and two together, doesn't make it instantly treatable, has to go through this whole process. But the thing is, a lot of the time there are solutions waiting to occur. The technology space has changed so much, especially with AI coding tools and all that. The people that once thought that things that weren't possible, that were extremely difficult, aren't looking back to those problems with the new technological lens just because they've told themselves that they're difficult problems. Animation is, I think, one of those. See, the thing with animation is, it's a lot of data processing. But like I said in the last video, if the data is just there, easily accessible in Blender, plain data, raw values associated to bones that we already know, not in some obscured format, you can do anything you want with it at any level of complexity, and then just compound that complexity over time. Like an API, you write yourself. Layers of abstraction, one by one. And that gives you full control over performance. You might think, oh, Curtis, if you write your own unbaking script, it will take longer than Cascadeur. They've spent years working on it. Bullshit. I'll tell you why. It may not have as good results, right? But I'll give you a rundown of the process. You've got data in Blender, in whatever form, whatever value types, floats, doesn't matter. It may be associated to things like actions, whatever, just lots of little bits of data. You may think, okay, if you're running a process on millions of data points, it's going to be very slow. Let's say it was something like a foot correction, and you had a value like weld 0, and you already knew how to convert like the angle and position of the bones to weld space, and then compare that against a weld, and then do that backwards. So you say if there's a difference, then move the foot, and you think, okay, well, if you move the foot, it's not moving the leg, so maybe we're going to go up and up and up, and that's why we want a control rig, because instead of moving the foot, we move something that's associated with the foot, like the control rig point, and then that naturally moves the rest of the bones. Okay, fine. That might take a while. So what you do is you simplify it into a layer. Let's say you take 4 points, and then these become points. So what you're essentially doing is you're reducing the frame rate, or you might also call it the resolution. So instead of it's going so then it gives you less data to work with. So it takes less time to perform an operation on those data points. And then, I mean, that gives you something you can cache, right? So let's say we did an even simpler one as well. We could cache this, store it either in the blend file as a different action, or next to the blend file in a folder as the new data format. Once you've completed the operation, you can then reconvert it back to a higher resolution rate, in which case you have controls for how you want to fill that data in. Do you just want to replicate it, or do you want to interpolate it, or do you want to work on Blender's interpolation system and basically turn it into a curve so that it fills in the gap for you, which would make more sense. So you've got a question here of the interpolation method. You've got a question here of how do you want to de-resolution things and up-resolution things. You've got a question of how do you want to store it. You've got a question of the actual algorithms you want to process, right? I gave foot position as one dimension, but there are lots of other things you can do. You've got a question of the rigging process. I said mention control rigs, IKFK, whatever, so you're not moving your bones individually. Or do you want to handle moving all the bones? That gives you a whole, I mean, it's really complicated. That'll give you a whole set of new controls of things, because we're thinking not just about humans, we're thinking about alien things as well. But the point is that if you start with a data management system like de-resolution and upping resolution, so forgetting any complex algorithms, this is a really simple thing to do. You're just cutting out frames and filling in frames. If you start there, then you have a way of performing extraordinarily complex things on extremely optimized data sets. It's a very simple process cutting out data. It's also a very simple process filling in data, because there's a million different ways to do it. You can pick your complexity, which leads me to the question is, if you're building a system to modify data, there are so many places for choices to be made and parameters to be changed, so many variables. How the fuck did a professional piece of software settle on 4 while providing no feedback? I'm not even saying this is the same type of design. This is just separating these things because these are entirely different systems. A data management system for caching and controlling the resolution between data. We've got a logic system for bones and their interactions, which may or may not be associated with a control rig system. And then separately, we've got algorithms for the type of processing we want to do on that data at different levels. We could then also choose at which level we want to perform the algorithms on to keep it modular in some way. So we've got 3 subsystems here. Each one of them will have their own parameters. We can see something similar in Cascadeur, right? We got like 3 steps to a process in the unbaking, more centered around fulcrums and their control points. So it is interesting. Like I got a comment on the last video from someone saying, it's interesting to get my take on human animation now because I'm seeing it through a bit of a different lens. In animation, as with a lot of things in graphics, there are conventions and ideas that people stick by that everyone's just kind of unanimously agreed are the ways to do things. But I hate that way of thinking. So it's really kind of similar. I've got a lot of friends that, kind of tinker with graphical programming, and one in particular, Azzy, you know them because they're my collaborator on Hex Scatter. Hex Scatter is another example. People trying to do non-seamless things one way, we go, actually, I think there's a better way to do it. It's always been funny sitting in calls with Azzy while they're writing up new like little rendering engines and like path tracing methods and stuff like that. Some of them are just ludicrously optimized. New methods based on papers and all sorts of weird stuff. And I know that people watch going, big-headed boy about to run into so many problems. Yeah, but that's kind of the fun part about it. To me, it's almost like playing Factorio. I suppose it feels different when it's not like, it's not my job specifically to do this kind of stuff. That's why the Patreon's important, by the way. You sign up to the Patreon, it increases my wage, I get to work on my own production, I get to develop tools for people, and I get to explore finding solutions to problems by extension of all of that through a new lens. Okay, so I'll wrap this up for now, just giving you a bit of an update for how the human animation pipeline's going. Like I said, this board will be available on the Patreon July 2026 production files project fold. I'm thinking if I do more things like this, I'm going to have to put a new section on the members lounge or website called workflows or pipelines to make it easier for people to follow. Anyway, I don't know if anyone made it to the end of this. If you did, put the unicorn emoji in the comments. Show me. Sign up to the Patreon, silver tier. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.